Welcome to the Bethlehem Corner. My name is Janine Santoro, Director of Equity and Inclusion for the City of Bethlehem, and I'm here with my friends from Touchstone, Mary Wright and Lisa Jordan. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have a few questions to ask you around your Festival Unbound last year that kind of continued on into this year. Can you tell us about the theme of Festival Unbound and what it was like creating programming, what your thoughts were about the inception of Festival Unbound for this past year?
Sure, thanks. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on here. And we love partnering with the city in all of our programming. And for this past year, for our festival, which has always focused for the last 6 years on issues of community and feeling of belonging, and how do we make this a community where everybody does feel as if they belong? We really wanted to kind of hone in on the everybody belongs this year. And part of it was that previous festivals, we've focused on issues of housing and home. Because of the conversations with the community in those festivals, some of the issues of accessibility started to really rise to the top. And so that became one of our areas of interest.
So accessibility, inclusivity became part of the conversation. And your programming really reflected that. How did you come to the decision to center disabled people in the stories and the programming that you had? And what were some of the things you learned in adapting to making it a more inclusive programming slate?
Yes.
Like Mary said, our theme in 2023 was home and housing, and that really began to influence our 2024 theme of accessibility. And so once we nailed that theme, then we thought about, okay, how can we show access really from the ground up? So in the events, how are we highlighting it by the performers? How are we highlighting it through the marketing material so audience members can come in? And how are we really building it in from conception rather than placing it on top at the end or like close to the end?
As an afterthought.
Yeah, as an afterthought. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think some of the festival comes about because of what the ensemble members are interested in, what's kind of exciting to us to explore based on what the community has told us. And so it's a kind of an interesting give and take of decision making of what goes in, what do we want to focus on this year, how are we going to make it happen?
So one of the many programs that you had actually took place at the library here. And you discussed the book, Sitting Pretty, The View from My Ordinary Resilient Disabled Body. Can you talk a little bit about what those book clubs led to, the last panel on accessibility and housing, I believe? What were some of the aha moments that came out of the panel? What were some of the community musings that people were talking about?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, we were really thrilled to get an NEA grant for the Big Read through Arts Midwest to be able to do this. It's not often that a small theater company like ours gets chosen for this grant. So we felt really honored and privileged to put this in as part of our continual Festival Unbound programming. And I think the book discussions were really deep. There was a lot of engagement from the community. People came to each one of them. They kept returning, which is always a good sign. And Stephanie Powell-Watts, who's a scholar and author at Lehigh, led the book conversations. And I think the freedom to talk about the things that don't normally get talked about was really a gift in all of the programming. And for people to be able to acknowledge their own issues of needing accessibility. And I think one of the aha moments that we all had, including Rebecca Tossig in the question and answer period we've had with her, was the need for more awareness of some of the invisible disabilities that aren't obvious at first sight. You know, you don't know that somebody's hard of hearing when you look at them. You don't know that somebody has OCD or has a traumatic brain injury, and that some of our awareness of the full scope of what it means to make a place welcoming and accessible needs to be adjusted. And that really was kind of an eye-opening moment, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think that for some people, disability is part of their life, either themselves or family members or dear friends. And for other people, it's something that they're maybe interested in learning more, but hadn't yet um, been aware that they may join that community, right? Like if we age, we are likely gonna, lose some of our hearing. We might have compromised walking. And so this realization that access and accommodation is really important for everyone in the community was something we saw throughout as well.
I think the other thing that really struck me was people realizing that it was okay to ask questions.
Yes.
And it was okay to say, I don't know. Can you help me? Like, how would you like to be addressed? Those kinds of things. And that the fear of asking questions is what's holding us back. And so I think that was a really great moment to realize that it's like, no, it's okay. Please ask questions.
What's next in terms of what you heard people say they wanted to see, particularly in Bethlehem? What's next, considering you heard probably a lot from both Rebecca and some of the panelists? How do you both imagine seeing a more inclusive and accessible Bethlehem?
Well, I think what Bethlehem does well, and what we're trying to do well with Festival Unbound is the listening part, and by having the conversations through the book discussions, the conversations through the panel discussion, that was a lot of listening, exchange, but a lot of listening. And so I think we can only really know how to make it better by involving as many people as possible in the conversation to make improvements, rather than making any sort of assumptions or working from like a checklist. Oh, we know we need to do this, this, and this, but really customizing for our community and the spaces here.
I think also one of the things that came out through the panel discussion, especially with Michael, was the need to go beyond the bare minimum of what's legally required, because those requirements are like 23 years old, and wheelchairs are different sizes. I mean, there's so many things, and this idea of, like Lisa said, it's not a checklist. It's an intention, and it's a heart. And one of the things I really loved was several people who don't live in Bethlehem, their comment was, Bethlehem is doing it right, which I thought was really great to hear. And I wanted you to hear that. I mean, we all know there's more work to do, but I think the fact that we're making this intentional, it's a big deal, and people are noticing it.
Well, thank you so much. And I think bridging upon that intentionality, we will be celebrating the passing of the ADA 35 years ago. July 26, 1990 is when it was passed. We're commemorating that at 11 o'clock in the morning, again, Saturday, July 26th. We hope you'll join us. We hope you'll join our community organizers, our service providers, and our Bethlehem residents for a really good conversation around what the ADA means today for us and how we look to a more inclusive and accessible city in Bethlehem. So thank you both so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate everything you do for the community.
Thanks.